Right, so I'm going to start doing some movements in the ground on here now. I'm going to use different shapes, so I'm going to build up the shape from around the fountain. Get some shapes in. I'm going to use like the purples. Like I say, try not to do too much, because if you do too much it takes away the effect from the actual, from that. And the cobbles, the kind of like architectural rings around this, like architectural rings that I'm trying to emphasise around here. And it kind of comes out with like cobbles and things. There is like a brick wall around there as well, which I'm going to add in a minute. But at the minute I'm just building these rings around the fountain. And using that light. And it's just scoring. Using your palette knife and using that, scoring it round. Create them shapes in the ground. And there's shapes with pathways coming round as well. And you're just using it, your palette knife, to create them shapes. To give like a pleasing, in a way, abstract type of thing with that. There's like pathways coming through. They're quite pleasing lines, these, that you can use on building in the ground. And it gives the effect of water on the ground as well. So I'm just building on some of these, just using my palette knife, dragging the paint through on this, and it's giving the effect of, so I'm going to add a bit of blue in there from the reflections from the waterfall, because there's some waterfall blues coming through, and I'm going to build in that as well. So there's some reflections of that coming through, some light blues coming through the ground. I'll get a bit of purple on it as well in a minute, and I'll kind of build that round as well with them architectural lines, so it gives a blurring effect of like water on ground. Quite liking that, it's looking alright that. And in the ground here there's like, just building cobbles up on the ground with using my palette knife. Yeah, the ground's looking good there. There's like pathways coming through this way and that way. It's all about, it's like using an abstract way as well. It's like just giving an impression, abstract impression into the way as well. So it's kind of like that as well. It's coming along now, that. There's like some walkways coming through. from there. Just concentrating on getting this ground right, because it's quite important you get a nice, by using your palette knife in this way, you create a bit of depth in the artwork as well there. Right, I'm quite okay with that. So there's like a wall here as well where people sit on, so I'm just going to create an area of a wall, or the impression of a wall where people actually sitting on. I'm just creating that with my palette knife. Gotta be careful there where I put it in. So I'm getting that there, the wall. So I'm going to have people sitting on this wall in a minute as well. Just building this up now so it looks pleasing to the eye. Yeah, so that's walls coming in. A bit edging off there. And a walkway there. So that's kind of like that. I'll show you this in a minute once I've done it. Right. Right. I'm getting quite happy with that now. Okay. Right. So I'll just show you this little bit. We've still got a lot of work to do on it yet. So, I don't know if you can see that. That's what I've done so far on the ground. Okay, so now, just going to add a bit more depth into this here. It's kind of working into it, but not working it too much, so it looks wrong, you know. Right, so I'm quite happy with that so far. I'll be adding all my characters in last, like I normally do, and adding all the lampposts and everything as well. So, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to do all the lights on the building. So, I'm going to be doing, let's see, I'm going to get some yellow. We get some yellows and get some pleasing colours and different shades of colours in the lights and in the windows. Get all different shades of yellows and blues and even blacks and different shades of things. So what I'll tend to usually do that is with a smaller brush, is add these lights in. Some lights are on, some lights are off, but I'll be doing a mixture of all sorts of things in there. Right. And I can use whites and all sorts of colours. Just as long as they're nice, pleasing colours, then that's fine, you know. Right, let's get some of these colours in. So it's just going to be looking at the picture just in an impressionistic way. It doesn't have to be accurate, and it's just to give the impression of lights in the buildings and that, you know. Like I say, the pencil guides are just guides. So, because most of your paint, your artwork is produced with your painting. So I'm kind of covering up these lights in the buildings, you know. And I'm going to bring out the colours of the buildings as well. Now I want to bring it, because it's like in the buildings there's like creams and yellows and bits of browns and all sorts of different shades of colours and things, you know. So I'm going to try and bring out all different colours and that, you know. I think where Debenhams is, there's quite lots of lights that are there. Looks like streams of lights, so that's like a little whitey colour. And I think in the buildings there's some lights there. At the moment I'm just placing down colours to give just an impression of lights. Now, like I say, Piccadilly Gardens, like L.S. Lowry painted in 1954. He painted this picture. Show you that now. So that's L.S. Lowry's painting of Piccadilly Gardens. Now I've got all my inspiration from his characters. I used to think Lowry's art was crap, you know, but that was until I had the art lecture on Lowry. Now, like I say, in 1950 he captured the garden in full bloom with his matchstick men, showing the Queen Elizabeth fountain at its centre, and he was commissioned to paint the area by the then director of Manchester City Art Gallery. And this was an area in bloom in Manchester, and I remember that as a child. But with Lowry's work, like I say, get me inspiration from him, but I do mine in a modern style, put my twist on it in a modern way. So I get my inspiration from his characters. I do like his characters now. It was like a heritage 20th century Manchester at the time. He showed the working class man in Manchester and Salford at the time, and how everybody was downtrodden and just everybody was fed up, you know. So he was just kind of highlighting Manchester at the time. I'm trying to highlight Manchester as it is now, you know. I'm just mixing colours up how I think should be right. It's not saying it's the right way or wrong way of painting or whatever, you know. I'm just showing you how I paint. I'm not saying it's the right way or wrong way of doing it. I'm just showing you this is for art, for enjoyment, you know. You got to enjoy what you're doing when you're doing art, in my opinion, you know. I think you've got, it's one of them things, you've got to enjoy what you're doing. If you don't enjoy doing it, don't do it, you know. Like I say, there's lots of shapes and colours in these buildings. I'm just trying to bring the colour out. That's what I'm about, trying to bring as much colour into the paintings at night as possibly can. Because I suppose back in Lowry's day, it was all like muted greys and smoggy colours from all the factory cotton mills and all sorts of things. So it was that was a reflection of Manchester at the time. But Manchester now, and Salford, and mainly Manchester really, there's, especially at night, there's loads of colours in the sky. Loads of colours, reflections from the actual city itself, and also there's lots of lights as well now. I would have thought back in Lowry's day there wouldn't have been as many lights on us, probably just street lights maybe, but there wouldn't have been as many lights as there are now. Well, there's nice loads of colours. Get colours. It's all about colours and shapes. Colours and shapes. I'll show you this in a minute, what I've done. say, it doesn't have to be, it's not prescriptive, it's not a mathematical equation that I do in my art. It's about enjoying what you're doing. Some white. Like I say, I do tend to use a lot of white. A lot of colours that I use. Try and put reflections on the windows. Trying to get like a glass effect by placing the whites across it as well. Try and find some more white painting in, hopefully we've got some. Okay. Right, so just using some nice colours. I'm a bit limited on white today, so I'm going to try and use it a bit sparingly on this one. Okay, so in there. Right, so that's what I've got so far on that, so that's just colouring in the buildings with slight emphasis to get that now. So right, so I'm going to start with the Arndale Centre. Now the Arndale Centre is it's quite quite a building with lots of, it's like a yellowy mustardy colour is the Arndale Centre. So I'm just going to try and get like a yellowy mustardy colour, and I'm just mixing it up on my palette to get the right shading that I'm looking for. Just to get there. Like I say, I don't do things accurately with my paintings, and I use a palette knife and also a brush for doing it. I'm just getting there. That's there. Just give a bit of colour on it as well. And I'll be adding the wording on later. I'm just getting a, trying to put a bit of depth on the building itself there. There's lots of little tiny lights on there. So I'm just going to do an emphasis with using a bit of the purples, the deep purples that I use for the edge of the canvas on the palette. Now another story I was going to tell was that Piccadilly Gardens, my dad was a bus driver, in Piccadilly Gardens, and he used to work for GM buses. And where the bus terminus is now, it wasn't like open as it is now. It used to be enclosed with like a canteen on the top where all the busmen used to go for their meals and a break. So my dad parked his bus up. My mum used to work for the GM buses as well as a cleaner. Like I say, we weren't very rich people. Anyway, my mum worked as a cleaner for GM buses, and she used to clean and also work in the canteen up there as well. And she was mopping away one day. My dad got off his bus, let all the people off the bus, and goes into the canteen up the stairs there. And as he was coming in, this bus driver was giving my mum a bit of cheek, having a laugh with her. But I don't think my mum saw the funny side of whatever it was, and she ended up wrapping a mop around his head. Coming out with a bloody mop around his head, he was, bloody hell. My dad was laughing his head off at that. I thought it was very funny. Right. I'll get some oranges on this building, I think. Get some orange. So a bit off this year with a lot of stress, because my dad's got dementia and he's got Alzheimer's and he's in a care home. And like I say, I do try and do stories about my dad as well on these videos. And one story that my dad had is, he used to be a welder working for Metro Vickers. And he ended up leaving that job because he was becoming specialist welding, and he ended up living in Winsford because he got an house in Winsford. And what happened was all the workers were very low paid. They wasn't on a lot of money, and they hadn't had a pay rise for bloody years. Now my dad was at the time learning to do trade union organisation. He was quite big on that, really, my dad, when he was younger. And anyway, all the workers were, it was like like piecework that he was doing. So they were doing washing machine drums, making washing machine drums, but all like a product line. Anyway, my dad was looked at this, and he was working there for a while. He realised that there was not enough time to do the job, and they were being underpaid. So he managed to actually get everybody a pay rise with it all, and he stood up for his rights and for the workers and everything, and he ended up getting all the workers a pay rise in there. And he was quite big on his trade union things. He was getting quite into it, and then he ended up when I was born, we were supposed to go to Australia, and he got a job as working on the shipyards in a place called Broken Prop Hill Company in Whyalla. But I kind of put a spanner in the works because I came along and held it up for about 6 months. So anyway, we ended up moving over there. It was on a ship. It was called the £10 Poms then, when everybody was emigrating, trying to get to Australia because of a better life and all the rest of it. So my dad decided, yeah, we'll go. So we ended up going on the ship. It took about 4 weeks to get there, and they ended up getting a house and a car for this Broken Prop company. And doing very well. Anyway, as he was a trade union rep, and he was like organising all the guys there over there as well when he was doing it. And anyway, things got, because if you worked in Wyella, the only company that was there was the Broken Hill Prop Company, and you either worked for them or you didn't, or you starved, basically. So anyway, my dad organised all these strikes and things, and they ended up going on striking because for better pay, because it wasn't very good pay at the time. So anyway, the company stuck deals and they wasn't going to give any extra money for any of the staff or anything like that. So they all went on strike. And anyway, my dad went up and down all Australia, not all of it, but most of it, collecting funds for the cause. Anyway, they ended up having that much money for the cause that they was able to survive, and they ended up breaking the back of the company because they had to give in then. But what they did was on the to survive, they had all the farmers, everybody clubbed in together, and one night this farmer come along and had a lorry load of sheep, and he says, "There you go, lads, there's some sheep for you." Ended up giving a load of bloody sheep to everybody. So they all rounded all the sheep up at night, and they took them to the slaughterhouse, and they had a load of meat then to survive. So that's one of my stories about my dad. He was quite, he stood up in crowds and all sorts of things, doing speeches just to get the all the men on board, and he did it very well. And they managed to get a pay rise in the end, but he ended up becoming ill with the actual job, because when he was a welder, because he was coming in and out of he was working on the ships, welding in the bilges of the ships, welding the ships together, and so he was in the bilges welding away, and you could only last for about half an hour at a time doing the welding, and then you had to come up again to get, because he was that stifling. He was unbelievable, apparently. So he was continually going up and down the bilge of the ships, in and out into the hot air, into the cold air, hot air, cold air, and he ended up getting pneumonia, and ended up in hospital away from my mum and me and my sister for quite some time, leaving my mum on her own trying to deal with everything. And yeah, he nearly died with pneumonia. It's called pneumonia. He nearly died, and from getting the pneumonia, he developed what they call polycythemia, which is like a cancer of the blood. That was due to his coming in and out of the bilges of the ships, doing that. So he had to give his job up. So when he gave his job up, he was wondering, thinking, shit, what am I going to do? I'm going to get home, because the doctors only give him 6 months to live. Back in yeah, they only gave him 6 months to live. They said, if you stay in Australia, because we haven't got the medicines to keep you going, you'll end up being dead in within 6 months. So he had to give his job up. And what he did, he had an old Volkswagen camper van, and he turned that into an ice cream van because he didn't have a job. So he's like turned it into an ice cream van, and started to go all around this place. I think it was near Sydney somewhere where they moved to. Anyway, the locals who had the main franchise in the area didn't like it. There was like about 10 ice cream vans chasing them all around the estates, trying to cut him out, and every time they moved in, he moved somewhere else, and he kind of cleaned up before them all. Said he loved it. It was like the chase was on, you know. So yeah, he did that. Ended up saving enough money. Ended up saving enough money so we could actually get us all back home again. So his one thing on his mind was to get us all home safely, you know. So he managed to do that, and he ended up getting us all back home to the UK. And I remember, well, I don't remember this, from what my uncle was saying to me, was that when I came over from Australia, I'd never seen snow, and it was in the winter when we came back, and it was snowing one day, so I legged it out of the house with nothing on. And just amazed at all this snow, you know. So what I'm just doing, I'm just building these buildings up with nice colours, trying to get some nice pleasing colours. Like I say, it's not being accurate with what's there, it's just what I think is down. It's about enjoying what you're doing, you know. I'm quite enjoying doing this at the minute. Like I say, I suffer with stress, and this is kind of, it does help me overcome my stress. Like I say, I love art, I've always loved art, and this is kind of what I do now, you know.